Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. I am continuing the budget series here with 1+ mana counter spells. So yeah, we did 1 mana last time, we're doing 1+. Okay, again, counter spells stop your opponent's spells before they resolve. This still does count as a spell being cast. So if they have a cast trigger, that does go through, but yeah, it does prevent any kind of enter the battlefield effects. So, what is 1+? When I say 1+, so the counterspell requires 2 kind of what we consider the standard is 2 blue, right? So these are kind of spells that are 1 blue and 1 colorless. So it's a blue and a colorless. Mana cost reducers may be used to cut the cost further. Again, so if you look at something like Arcane Melee, it makes instant and sorcery spells 2 less to cast for everyone. So this actually does help your opponents as well, but if you're planning on this, you can make a lot of use out of it. For instance, all of these spells would be 1 blue mana to cast now. If this is on the battlefield, if anyone has this, then it helps you a lot more than I think any of your opponents. So first up, delay. This is definitely the most popular one on the list, or the most common one on the list, I should say. Temporarily counters the spell, puts 3 round delays counters on it. So basically, it gives it suspend, and that means at the beginning of each of their turns, they will count down, right? So I believe 3 is what it has. Yeah. 3 counters at the beginning of each of their turns. They can take 1 counter off. So at the beginning of their 3rd turn, this will trigger and they'll get their spell back. With a permanent, that means they get their spell in 3 turns. If it's, say, like an instant, sorcery, or counter spell, it just may not even be useful at that point, right? For instance, if you use this on a counter spell, the other spell is going to resolve, and then the counterspell has no target. So they cast the counterspell on their turn automatically, and there's no target for it, so it just goes away, right? It doesn't really do anything. So again, a lot of these renders a lot of spells useless, is the idea. Also, there's kind of a window a spell is useful in, so even if it is like a permanent that will come in, when they're casting a creature spell, they don't want a creature in 3 turns, they want it now, right? So it can still be very detrimental, I think. Especially if you use this on a commander, that'd be funny. You kind of shut off their deck for 3 turns. But anyway, it is $189 for that one. So that's, the reason I have this on the list is because it used to be much more expensive and now it came way down in price. I believe it was over $5 at one point. Squelch is next. So this is a cantrip. So what we mean by that is a very low cost spell that draws a card, right? So you can use this to counter an activated ability. And it is only for activated abilities, but there aren't a lot of counters for activated abilities. So that's very nice actually. Something is going to have an activated ability in the game. Like you're always going to have a target for it anyway. And it draws a card. So, in a Spellslinger deck, one where you're trying to use a lot of spells very quickly, especially if you have something like Prowess on creatures where they get +1/+1 every time you cast a spell, you knock them up. Kinda knock them up. You increase their power, let's say, not knock them up. You don't make them pregnant, no. But anyway, 99 cents. Defabricate. So I really like this one. This is probably, I think this is kind of like a better version of Squelch, even though it's much cheaper, but it doesn't draw a card is the downside. But it gives options. Options are, I think, the most underrated or undervalued thing. Especially in Commander, people are always looking for like the most powerful. And then if you're in a situation, you might not have what you need to deal with this problem, right? options are very, very, very powerful. So, counter and exile an artifact or enchantment. So that is, again, just incredible. You can get rid of, you can stop an artifact or enchantment in its tracks, especially if they're trying to cycle it out of their graveyard. You just take it out of the game altogether. May also counter activated or triggered abilities. Again, usually it'll say like counter activated ability or counter triggered ability. Like Squelch was triggered only. This is either, right? So this is actually a very, very flexible spell. So it's not, it's not counter spell where you can counter any spell, but it counters, I think, almost any ability, if not any ability, or all abilities I can think of. I'm pretty sure activated and triggered are the two types of abilities, but anyway. And yeah, two types of spells that can exile two types of other spells. For 10 cents, that is just like, that's crazy good. Again, you can potentially cast it for 1 blue mana also. So just crazy. Urtai's Scorn. Cheaper if you are countering the second spell or later. So again, this is 3 unless it's their second cast spell. Again, it's considered cast as soon as they tap the mana and choose the card, right? So even if it hasn't hit the battlefield, it's already cast. So their second spell they want to use, it's already cheaper for you to counter. I like this partly because it does get kind of stronger late game. They're more likely to cast more spells on their turn later in the game. And then that's when you can like get more kind of bang for your buck. It also is more likely when you've got things set up like mana reducers. So instead of casting this for 2, you would probably cast it for 1 pretty easily. And it counters any spell. So that's very nice. 27 cents. Again, just very, very undervalued. It's a very simple condition to get the reduction for. So I think any kind of reduction, they're already like, that's not as good if there's a condition for the reduction, but very simple condition. Glorious Gale counters only creature spells, so that is a downside. But if the creature spell you counter is legendary, the ring tempts you. So this is very useful against, for instance, like commanders. If you cast this against a commander is usually a legendary creature, you can have the ring tempt you. This is maybe not a bad like sub-theme. In some decks, I think you could make it a sub-theme. You wouldn't want to have like a primary ring tempts you. Anyway, let's look at what the ring tempts you does. Again, on the first one, your ring bearer is legendary and can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Again, so because you choose one legendary creature to be your ring bearer, and then they cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power, right? Anything with greater power, can't block it, basically evasion, right? Ideally, you combine this with like a flyer, and so you give a flyer the second form of evasion, flying being the first, and then they're actually much more effective. But yeah, even if you're only going to have one, the ring tempts you trigger, the first one, when they get the extra evasion, is pretty good to have. So 20 cents for that one, I think it is worthwhile. So again, we're going to look at the full list here. Delay, our first one, for $1.89. Squelch for 99 cents. Defabricate for 10 cents. Grossly undervalued. Grossly undervalued. Urtai's Scorn, 27 cents. And Glorious Gale is 20 cents. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit like and subscribe. I'm trying to remember to always say that now. Yeah, I should say it early in the video, not the end, but still. Anyway, take it easy. Have a nice